This was an early build of the tilted building, and you'll see I can evade these clickers, which probably would have been nice in the ship game.
Once it was revealed that a remake of The Last of Us was coming out, titled The Last of Us Part 1, a lot of people were excited to see the combat from Part 2 incorporated into the first game. That excitement soon became disappointment as fans realised that unlike Ellie and Abby in the sequel, Joel would not be able to dodge or go prone. After all, otherwise the combat of the two games was broadly the same, so why not just add these two abilities on? But, whilst very similar, the two combat systems are not actually the same. This may not be immediately apparent, since especially with the remake the enemies act in much the same manner, and shooting a gun is shooting a gun. But there are significant subtle differences which begin with the melee combat and alter how you play each game. When you get close to a standard human or runner enemy as Joel, Ellie or Abby, you get three different reactions. Joel will begin to clobber them, the enemy essentially stun locked for 3 successive hits. At that point, there's a gap of about a second as Joel recovers himself. This allows the enemy to recover as well, so you need to quickly go in hard again to take them down, or they'll score hits on you. On occasion, human enemies will duck your swing, and so you have to quickly press triangle to push them back in order to resume attacking. If they have a melee weapon, you can only block them if you also have one, otherwise you're guaranteed to take a hit. Ellie uses her knife to attack the enemies, slashing at them. To stop you, a runner or human will grab Ellie and push her back. This then forces you to use dodge to avoid a hit before you can attack again, and this might happen a couple of times before a takedown, so you need to be ready with the dodge button when the enemy winds up an attack animation. All human enemies without guns have a melee weapon, so beyond the impact if they score a hit, this doesn't affect how the fight plays out. Abby throws punches like Joel, but like Ellie will have the enemy push her back and wind up for an attack after a couple of hits, necessitating the dodge. There's a difference in that her strength affects the likelihood of being pushed back by a human and how quickly she can take them down. And of course you can gain the momentum ability to get a kill strike on a second enemy immediately after striking the first. But broadly it's the same, with the dodge not just an option but also a necessity due to enemy attack patterns. Again, the enemy having a weapon in Part 2 has no bearing on this, except when Abby is fighting a brute. Here, there'll be more blocking of her attacks, necessitating not just a dodge but a chain of them sometimes. And if she's thrown on the floor, the dodge is required to avoid a fatal blow. As I said, the differences here are subtle, but the impact on playstyle is significant. Joel can take on an unarmed enemy, or even an armed enemy if they're alone and he gets the drop on them, with just fists and essentially batter them. But if they have a weapon, he's forced to keep his distance without one. Ellie and Abby aren't forced to make the same consideration, and Ellie in particular is quick enough to be a little reckless with close-up attacks, whilst Abby just has to be conscious of the presence of brutes. This has a knock-on effect in combat against groups, which is of course far more common than one-on-one. The ability to dodge around the enemy you're attacking versus the likelihood of taking a 2x4 to the head when enemies with guns are nearby incentivizes different combat decisions. Likewise, with a group of infected, Ellie and Abby can take on multiple at once if they're good enough with the dodge, whereas Joel will find himself overwhelmed and ducking down to cover himself, a sprint necessary to break free of the enemies and regroup. Being able to dodge and quick shot after, or having to keep your distance and shoot, also affects gun combat and the decisions a player makes, meaning that, as subtle and minute as the differences may seem, you will play Joel in Part 1 different to Ellie and Abby in Part 2, and to a degree you'll even play Ellie and Abby differently. Joel can brute force his way through a situation, but needs to avoid being overwhelmed. Ellie and Abby might not get so easily overwhelmed, but the trade-off is not having that brute force option. Even with Abby, whose strength is compensated for by the presence of brutes or larger groups of infected including shamblers. A good example of this is the brick and bottle. In both games, both items can be quick thrown to stun an enemy in order to grab them or strike kill them. However, only the brick can be used for a quick 3-hit kill on humans, runners, stalkers and clickers, and only by Joel. In Part 2, there's no difference between the two items. Appending a dodge to Joel's existing combat mechanics would break them. That moment when an enemy with a melee weapon dodges your punch and winds up an attack loses its impact if you can just press L1 and leap backwards out of the way. The risk of being overwhelmed by infected disappears if you can dodge and aren't forced into a regroup. It makes the mechanics unique to Joel redundant. And of course, if you just give him Abby's mechanics instead of his own, well then the whole thing plays differently and no longer feels like the original experience. Where the new mechanics in the Resident Evil 4 remake enhance the experience and feel like a fine-tuning of Leon's combat style, such a change here would be like playing Abby in a Joel skin. I haven't even talked about the Part 1 version of Ellie yet, but that perhaps underlines the point. The whole point of her section throughout is that you are surviving through keeping hidden or keeping your distance. As soon as enemies get close, you're essentially dead. You can try attacking them with your knife, but you're outmatched and it doesn't go well. Add in a dodge and the whole playstyle changes because Ellie is immediately less vulnerable. Indeed, with the brick and knife combination being a one-hit kill on a clicker, something that's not true once we get to part 2, compensating for Ellie's speed and agility, she's almost overpowered. Now, I'm not saying it wouldn't be fun to play Joel's encounters with the dodge mechanics. I'd be all for Naughty Dog releasing an enhanced version of the Part 1 and 2 Encounters mode, where you can choose individual combat encounters to replay with a random loadout, and giving us the ability to choose any encounter from both games, plus Left Behind, and choose whether we tackle it as Joel, Young Ellie, Part 2 Ellie, or Abby. That would be a whole barrel of fun in its own right. But for the specific experience of The Last of Us Part 1, the way Joel plays makes sense. Whether Joel could dodge or go prone in real life, as I've seen some of the debates around this focus on, isn't the point. The point is how the moveset available to you incentivizes you to play, and how that affects the challenge. And so, whilst I might have wanted it when I first heard about the remake, having thought about it and replayed both games many times, I'm now definitely on the side of Joel not being able to dodge. Let me know in the comments what you think, and whether you agree with me about a standalone Encounters game with character select. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and consider subscribing to keep up to date with all my content. Like the video that just popped up, which YouTube thinks you should watch next. This is a Patreon and member supported channel, so if you want to become a member and unlock custom badges and emojis, early access to my videos, and your name in the credits, then click the join button below. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.